Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Eye Opener Society, and welcome back again to the show because we love all of you, and we love you because it's Valentine's Day, or at least Valentine's Day just passed. I didn't do the show on Saturday, but this is our regular show, and it fell along this entire Valentine's Day kind of weekend. Before we get into it, I wanted to give a couple of thank yous. I wanted to thank Carly and Carla from Appalachian Rootworks, rooted in ruins in Cynthiana, Kentucky. I'm actually, after this recording, I'm going to be going down for this weekend to assist them because they are podcast monsters, man. They've got so many guests coming in the course of a couple of days. And they called me and my wife to come down, give them a hand because they need some production help. So, big shout out though to them because they're doing such a wonderful job, and their podcast, Without a Candle, is getting so much better. And they're adding more of the Raven Records, which is another podcast too that they are doing. So that's going to be released on Tuesdays while their regular shows are released on Friday. Big shout out to them. Thank you to everyone who helps out on this show. Sunset Child for joining me on that other episode as a co-host. We're still waiting for a podcast from Out There Podcast, but it's great to have heard from Sunset Child and having her on. Big thank you. Big thank you to Ann Lund from Haunted and Waiting. Don't forget to check out hauntedandwaiting.blog and follow her on Facebook. Just look for Haunted and Waiting. Our dear friend Hannah Rose from The Sound Within. Big shout out to her too as well for helping me out on the episode with the guided meditation series as well. Don't forget to follow her on Facebook, The Sound Within. Follow her on TikTok too as well. These are some great people. Elaine from Arcane Oracle too. Thank you for everything that you've done since this show started, and you've been there in the background. Big happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. I appreciate it. Speaking of Valentine's Day, let's talk about relationships. There's a lot that I've been discussing with Lizzie back and forth on this. There's so many levels involved as well with this. From my perspective, I've gone through three marriages. I'm on my third, actually, and it's been a wonderful, calming, peaceful ride. I got nothing bad to say about it. And I'm not the one who's going to talk bad about past relationships either. They've had their pros, they've had their cons. They basically ran their course. Each one was completely different, polar opposites from the other. Lived through bad times, lived through good times, and that's what it was about. But lately, because I know we are in this cosmic shift or something, this ascension, whatever it is you're thinking or feeling that it is, most people that I know are having very difficult times with relationships. We all know Hannah, my stepdaughter, who was doing this show as my co-host for a long time. Where did she go? Well, she's here. She's still under my roof, but we can't get her on to do an episode like this because of her breakup, because of that divorce and throwing kids in the middle of everything. And I don't want to get too personal with it. I don't want to speak on her end, but there's a lot of ugliness. And we can attribute it to maybe what we're told relationships are, how we're told marriages should be. And I get this feeling a lot of times marriages just turn into either A, ownership, or they're turning into this convenience, which I think a lot about finances, security, roof over your head, not having to leave, but you're going to be stuck with the one thing that is destroying you, male or female side, or female, female, male, male, whatever your situation may be. There might be a real struggle going on. And if it's abusive, I'm telling you right now, get the hell out of there immediately. I don't care who's doing the abusing or what. That's really my total. Like, I can't stand that. I've dealt with that. It's something you need to leave immediately. For those of you sticking around for that convenience, what's it really doing to you? I have many thoughts, but I also have somebody else here. I have Lizzie with me as well. And we know Lizzie has many different levels of thoughts too. They differ from mine. And that's the thing. It's a difference of perspectives on all of this. And we have been talking about this for a while. And we've also determined her and I have a relationship. And we got to take that into consideration too. Relationships need not to be marriage, they need not to be sexual. And we could have a completely platonic relationship, completely no holes barred. And in the past few days, thanks to Lizzie turning me onto this Marco Polo app so we could talk more, we've spent hours on end just talking and forming such a beautiful friendship that's becoming tighter and tighter every single day. But it's a relationship, and I respect it. I think I need it. It's been something that's changed me over the last few days to have someone to talk to constantly that understands me. And I think Lizzie's feeling the same way, but I don't know. We'll have to talk and ask her. Lizzie, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited to jump in right here. So, okay, I have this belief that everything that's happening within is happening without. If it's happening without the world, it's happening within. And right now, there is this big theme of the rapture, the new world, like however you want to look at it. The point is, on whatever level we're aware of it, we're all trying to like bring this quote new world into being. We're in the age of like becoming aware of everything. And when you see discomfort and pain, it like magnifies. But it does that so that we can fix it, quote, because fixing isn't like a super great word. But so everything that I'm seeing and whatever you're going through, it's a process of trying to figure out the energetic lifestyle, whatever perspective, new way of living. Because the thing is we can get mad at the world for the way that people don't meet our needs or whatever it is. But it all comes down to what we've set up for ourselves. And you mentioned about, abuse and just like leaving it. It's hard when so many things are pulling at you, but it feels so hard because you think that's the only way to do it. When you get in positions, whether it's like physically abusive or just where you're abusing yourself by not being honest about your needs, either way, it's a thing that you set up long before you even met that person. And so when you get in a position where you've got, because the world puts this like codependency on relationships, right? And so when you do that and you're now trying to sort out all of your multidimensional ties limited down to one person, it makes everything really messy. And it's really a lot easier to pull yourself into a spot where the moment you become aware of just how uncomfortable you are, it's so messy. How do you get out of it? Because yeah, your finances are tied, your futures are tied, your hopes and your dreams and your fears and everything, the stories that you tell, it's all tied around into this like one plot line. And the thing is we're multidimensional beings. Our relationships cannot be honed down into it. So many people when they get into a monogamous relationship, not to speak ill on it, but they tend to put their best friend, their future, their everything into like one category, and they don't tend to branch out. That's something that's very important to me when I'm in a monogamous relationship, is that I still get to branch out. I still get to, you and I have been talking since, I joined the show, and we learn so much from each other. If your only relationship is honed in on this monogamous sexual relationship, you're limiting the way you can learn, what you can learn, how fast you can learn, and you're limiting it to the ability of another person to learn. When you can branch out And I'm not saying you have to be like polyamorous to branch out. It's one way to do it, but you can really have different connections on different levels in different areas and learn and evolve as a multidimensional being with your multidimensional relationships. And so it's not the monogamy or relationships with love, even in polyamory, because those ones can be just as toxic and limiting. It's not that they limit, but we have a tendency to limit ourselves to whatever dynamic, whatever story we placed on it. And so if you're going through like a hard time, you've really got to look at like what story are you telling? What story are you insisting? And that will start to unravel what's actually difficult because the universe is supposed to be easy. If it's not easy, you're lying to yourself about something. But it's a double edged sword because oftentimes the things we're lying about are true. It's not that they're a lie, but we're holding it in a certain layer of truth. And that complicates the whole thing when you only look at it from one perspective.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's why I asked the questions. You diagnosed that so well. Um, so touching on a few things, going back to my first marriage, is a first marriage, 21 years old, and you have this idea of what marriage is. And I think I held on for almost 13 years. But we just lied to each other the whole time that regardless of what's going on, and I think too, religion played a lot into that because my first wife with the whole Catholic religion that basically says you don't divorce no matter what's going on. It wasn't a physically abusive in any way. It was just we both knew maybe after 7 years we just weren't right. We were not compatible with each other. We had completely different ideas. We clashed all the time on them. And we should have realized that. And we did. And but it always came down to no, we're not getting that divorce. This is the way it is. That's toxic because you're throwing that toxicity to the point where you are now forced to be involved in something that is not in the alignment that it should be when it comes to marriage. Moving on to second relationship. Again, held on for a very long time, very open. And I would say going well beyond polyamory, it was just open relationship. Had a lot of fun, obviously. But in that same, token, towards the end, there was a lot of lying because when you, like you had mentioned, polyamory too has its own limits, its own problems too. It definitely, puts you into these situations where you really need to be 100% honest. If you don't like somebody else that the other person is with, you should be able to say, I don't like that person. But once you start lying, you are saying, "Oh yeah, I'm fine with that person. I'm fine with that person." But then that's a lie and it pulls you away from that too as well. So now I'm on a third marriage, monogamous, and completely at peace because I found somebody with the same type of spiritual energy that I have, where it's extremely calming, grounding. And we just had this streak where I mean, we never honestly argued or anything else. And there was a lot of issues at the beginning, mental health and suicide and all. I mean, this is complete honesty, but I stuck, through it the whole time to help her because this is my partner. This is who I am with. This is the person that means something to me. I am not going to back away from somebody just because they're having all these problems and I don't want to deal with it. And then to go even further, to expand on what we were talking about with friendships and all, not limiting yourself. I'm the same way with my friends. If Lizzie came to me, I really need your help, please. I'm going to be there for her no matter what. I know that. I feel that. And that doesn't mean I'm abandoning a marriage that I'm in and I'm extremely comfortable with. It's just a human nature to help and to give and express yourself to other people. You don't have to always just be focused on one. So I'm hoping, Lizzie, that kind of compressed everything that you were saying too, just in my form.
Yes, yes, and I had so many thoughts. Let me see if I can pull them all out here. I think to start is my idea where we feel this need to like trap love into forever. You mentioned your first wife was Catholic, and so very like spiritually like is forever. But some beautiful things aren't meant to hold forever. If you pick a flower, it dies, right? Like that analogy. And some things that I've deconstructed throughout the years of switching back and forth between polyamory and monogamy is that regardless of which relationship style, even if you commit for life, like even if you are to marry somebody, it really has to be from a perspective that you're not picking them like a flower. You have to like leave them planted where they are. You get to now witness them as a flower. Maybe you can touch their soft petals if you're going to be gentle. But we have a tendency when you decide that it has to be forever, forever, it can limit you and it can bring out lies because now you're trapped in a spot where it actually limits you because two things are always true. If you love them forever, you have to grow in a way that they and everybody else in their life can honor, because otherwise it causes friction. When you are in a polyamorous relationship, even if you're only sleeping with one person and a group of 4 people, you're in a relationship with all of those other people, even if you never speak to that other person, but because their energy is all wrapped up in this person, all their soul ties, contracts, recursive lives, past life, this is all a tangled mess. And when you enter a relationship with someone, you enter their mess. And so the game is to be on, you have to be radically honest, even when that means you fuck up. Because if you're fucking up authentically, you're evolving, and those who are meant to be in that next phase are going to come with you. And if they're not, that's okay. It doesn't take away from the love that you guys built together. It doesn't mean things are wrong. And it gets complicated when you feel that really beautiful, that's my person thing. Because a lot of the times I've watched it, okay? So I only learned about recursive lives as a thing this year. But I can see now as I go through my past relationships which ones I've met 1,000 times, which ones I've met a couple, which ones were brand new, me just like attempting to do something different. I you know my I didn't enter my first marriage until 30, right? Before that, it was a lot of, and I attributed it to a low attention span at first with the person. And then as I tapped into things, I realized I was unknowingly understanding where it was leading and cutting it really early. Now where I'm at in understanding my like long-term path, what I was attempting to do was closing a lot of loops. I had a lot of potentials, a lot of different directions that I've attempted to accomplish this goal, and I've cycled through a bunch of things throughout these lives that like I closed a bunch of things out in this life, opened up into this marriage, and I entered it into it with this perspective that, well, I did it. Like I did all the things, like here we go, my person. And I was so accurate about that. He is my person. But currently we are separated and it's probably not getting back together, and that's so sad to me with all the beautiful things that were built. But in all reality, it doesn't take away the fact that he was my person. We've done this 1,000 times. We're back to like my idea on the template that we're like all trying to like switch over. This aspect of this world's template that I want to experience, I do so well romantically through this person. So I do it over and over and over again, just because we haven't accomplished it in this life. doesn't mean that it's not a beautiful journey to go on. And when you feel that thing about them being your person, whether it works out or not, you weren't wrong. It's how well did you guys enter into it in the way you wanted to build it? How well did you continue to build it? How well did you meet each other throughout the whole journey? It's so easy to be like, well, you did this wrong and you did this wrong. But anything that you're seeing in that relationship that's bad is what you're mirroring from inside. What you're seeing is good is what you're mirroring from inside. And so the question is not, is this a person or not? Like your person or not. The question is, do you guys meet each other in a place that mirrors beauty or mirrors evolution or mirrors pain? Because none of those are necessarily wrong. It's all something you're trying to sort out for this grander scheme of things. But do you want to play in this right now with this person? Because it's a game and there's no right answer. Just because you've done it 1,000 times doesn't mean you have to do it again. Just because you've never done it before doesn't mean that it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? Everybody just needs to chill. Really, they just need to chill and take a step back and just really look at what's happening and see what it's showing you about inside. Because we think that it's all about the relationship, but in the grand scheme of things, energetically, you can solve anything you're going to solve without actually being romantically involved with a person. And it actually complicates so many things because of all the ties about romance. Truthfully, if we all just like we're our own person for a few years, I feel like the whole collective would be better. And I think that's why there's so much discourse. And it's not that relationships are the problem, but we're trying to build like this new world with all the baggage of the old one. And so it's this process of like letting go of all the shit we've collected, but carrying all the strengths that we earned, but not proving it. And that like circles out to a big mess.
Yeah, it does. It does circle out to a big mess. And on the same topic, I don't want to come across as totally negative because I know there are many people, myself included, that are in wonderful and perfect relationships. So if you actually have that, embrace it, enjoy it, and keep working on whatever it is that's making that relationship perfect. And the way I see it, just through my eyes, my experience, like the here and now, I fell in love with a person, everything about them. I never wanted to change that person. Once you start wanting to change that person, you no longer are in love with that person that you met. And that's how I go through this relationship. It's out of complete admiration and respect for someone who is so solidly themselves that it's such a beautiful thing that I'm always engrossed in. And at the same time, I could be completely the person that I am without any changes and I'm respected. And that's a big thing. So if you have that in your relationship, yes, embrace it because it's not all negative. I've just been seeing a lot of struggling. We could probably go off and listen. Lizzie and I did talk about this. We were saying this could be like maybe 10 different episode series because there's so many different, aspects to this. But what I don't like is when two people, because now instead of just having one person that's miserable, when you're in a relationship, you got two people now miserable. And if you're trying to make things work and it's not working, you have to really be honest about that. Move on. It's a huge, huge world. If you're human, I got a question in the front row. What's up, Lizzie? Lizzie, hold on a second. Your mic's out. I got no sound on you.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
back. Okay. Yes, move on. If you're feeling called to move on, move on. But there's so much of a tangled mess. And part of what we're doing is learning how not to pick the flower. And if you move on because you picked the flower versus saw the flower's beauty and let it grow authentically, Just because you guys put each other in the same vase doesn't mean it has to end. You can grow together and replant your guys' selves. It has to be a co-creation though. You have to leave them behind if they're not willing to play the game with you and you don't want to be in the vase anymore. But it doesn't have to necessarily be an ending. Everybody's waking up, everybody's seeing these things, even if they can't see all the timelines weaving and all of the emotions being pulled. Everybody's getting so in tune with their bodies and their intuition and their understanding on some sort of level of what they're trying to do. I really believe that you can deconstruct this with a person. You just have to be willing to let them go if they're not going to follow you along.
Okay. That does make a lot of sense because like I said, it's sometimes troubling to me to see that when I'm witnessing it, and I am working with people too that are in that space right now, and they're coming to me for that advice, for that guidance, and it's difficult. It's because I try to be as real as possible, saying I can see it's over. It's not going anywhere. On that same note, too, something can happen. A spark can happen. Sometimes you're going to realize in that whole difficult situation with all the different energies going on, you might ignite a spark with that. You might see something new in that person that you haven't seen before that places you right back into that position where you say, wow, this person is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be careful with that because, again, we have to still respect that person. And if there's still things you don't like about them, I mean, listen, we're not going to love everything about a person. Some people have little idiosyncrasies that, drive us crazy. That's in any relationship. We can't be 100% perfect. We're human beings. We just embrace it, but we admire it because it's part of that person that we love. And I wanted to touch back on where you're saying your person too. We, if we're in situations where we've had different, marriages or different relationships and, they came to an end, we have to really understand we hold on to that energy. We had a whole nother person that we spent, like I said, 12 years of that energy exchange constantly. And I will be honest, like when that was over, I would be walking around in a mall and I'll just start bawling my eyes out like a little bitch. Um, and it was so weird for me because it never happened to me before. So I went for therapy and it didn't take long because this guy I was seeing there, he said during one of the sessions, he says, you're not crying because you're sad. You're crying because for the last 12 years, you had somebody to fall back on. That person was there when you woke up, came home all the time. That person's not there anymore. So it's just your body adjusting to this situation that you no longer have. And I sat there, I was like, yeah, why am I crying like a little bitch? Because made perfect sense. And I walked out of there, I never had to see him again. All the crying stopped, all the emotion stopped. But it's 12 years of that's energy exchange. And it does. We hold on to that. We are vessels, and we've spoken about that before.
Yes, and the other thing is so biologically, when we're born, we learn how to regulate our nervous system, our body temperature, all of those things that our body does automatically. We learn first through bonding with skin to skin with our mother, and then through other people as we develop on. But there's this funny thing I think that happens. And okay, so I'm going to say this, but it's not okay. We do this and then we put our children in a room and we tell them to sleep by themselves, right? But then we go and we sleep in our beds with our partners and we cuddle. We are still, even though our bodies more or less, because some people actually apparently never fully learned this, but our bodies are co-regulating on a biological level. We're energetically connecting on so many different levels along the thing. We're co-regulating while we sleep. But then we have our kids go to bed and then we get mad that they can't regulate themselves when they haven't learned it yet. And I think this is actually something that causes people to hold on much longer than they need to, because you've now patterned, like all that energy you're saying between the two people, you've patterned to regulate emotions together, regulate your nervous systems, regulate everything together, even if it's only done in your sleep and not done like verbally in that same context. And so it's not that there's anything wrong with having your kids sleep in another room, but that is biologically a pretty new thing for our species. And so, whether you're sleeping in bed with someone else or sleeping in bed alone, we really got to think from a perspective of like, are we just like waiting until we're so exhausted to fall asleep, or are we actually like regulating ourselves individually? Because that's going to pull you in so many ways if you can't do that for yourself.
I'm always amazed at the information that you bring out. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sitting here digesting it, saying, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I can't even add anything to it. You said it perfectly. Yeah, we do. We are taking on those energies and we are taking on those emotions like that. And yeah, energetically, when we're sleeping and having another person there, and now my mind's going off onto this other thing. There are people, and I don't know because I'm not going to sit here and play statistics because I'm just guessing. If I was to look up the statistics, men are probably more comfortable saying, I'm happy to be alone and I don't want nobody with me. But on that same level, men, I think, suffer from that loneliness more than anybody else.
Yes, and I've been deconstructing this a lot lately, and I was talking to you about how circumcision. I really think that like on a so many multidimensional level fucks with men right from the get-go. I think we pattern men to shut down into loneliness versus relying on another person, and so they learn to not regulate but close in to themselves, right? Which is kind of like regulation, but more like a stalling of it. Whereas women, we're given baby dolls before we're even out of diapers. You know what I mean? Like, that's like a whole other episode that we'll have to get into to really deconstruct that one. But the point is we learn to emotionally regulate ourselves through the emotional regulation of the emotions of the people around us. We care for ourselves. This is very stereotypical, okay? So take what resonates for all the listeners. But we do this through how peaceful the emotions are around. Whereas men will automatically be like, this shit's chaos and close in on themselves to protect themselves. But women have to cater everything and fix everything. And that separation causes so many problems. I have more to say, but I don't know where to
I gotcha.
plot
That's
on.
fine. You said a lot. It makes a lot of sense. And this is where I think when we're talking, whether it be relationships, marriages, or just being single and just having fun, we as human beings are just such complex creatures because we're toying with so many different emotions and challenges. And then we are bringing or allowing another person into that under the guise of forever. Throws a big, big emotional mess. And that's why I think many times it fails and it fails miserably. Now, I don't know if I don't know how much time I want to go on with this, but I think we spoke on this too, where it's like, is marriage, current marriage, legal marriage, the piece of paper, is that just old school garbage that should just be thrown out and we could just be married just by saying married?
Okay, I'm gonna end this on a truth bomb, okay? I don't believe in legal marriage. I deconstructed this a long time. I'm talking about how I entered and am now exiting my first marriage here, but we were actually never legally married because do you think like in this society, in this like attempted hands may tell world, I'm going to legally on paper be owned by another human being because realistically, that's what legal marriage is. Spiritually, spiritually, it's a commitment of walking in a door where you say, I will unconditionally love you. I will do my best to see you in everywhere you want to be seen, and I will give you space to grow. That's a spiritual marriage. And truthfully, as I'm, quote, exiting this marriage, I have this hard time not calling him my husband because regardless of what happens in the future, even if he never talks to me again, the truth is, I will always do my best to see him. I will always unconditionally love him. This is a commitment that I can have without limiting myself. So, on a spiritual level, maybe he is my husband, maybe he isn't. That's why it's like a messy thing. I didn't know if I wanted to really like say on here, but it so perfectly came to yours. I felt like truth bombing you a little bit. I know you didn't know that about me. I don't tell anybody that didn't know me prehand because for all intensive purposes, it was the same commitment to me. I just wasn't committed to being legally owned because that's how I view legal marriage.
I want to give you kudos and I want to give you a standing ovation for that because there's two ways I view the legal marriage. One, when it in with first marriage, with whole Catholic marriage, it's a witness before God, and you can't break up, or it's a sin. So no matter what you do to that other person, they can't get away from you, and I just can't come to terms with that. Second part is it just now says you're in a different tax bracket and you're going to pay either more or less depending. That's the other portion. And I know you agree with me on that. So this whole paper marriage, and that's what I like to refer to is the paper marriage, it could be tossed out. There's no reason why two people can't get together, live under the same roof, take care of their own separate finances, be in love, share everything that's part of a marriage. But once that piece of paper gets in the way, we are now screwing ourselves because just like you're saying, I own you. Here's the piece of paper.
Yeah, it's
Right?
weird. It's weird. Now, this is not to talk crap on anybody in legal marriages. Like do
Mhm.
it if it's gonna financially or logistically, like if it works for you, if it's gonna help you do the things that you're doing, like if you've got investments you guys are doing together and all that stuff, and you're playing in legal things together, maybe that legal marriage will benefit you. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? You can still look at it differently just because it's on paper doesn't mean it's like now like binding you into something. But again, with the cultural norms, you love somebody, they're now forever. You just legally own each other. Like that's just what you do, right? Half of yours, half of what you have is mine, and vice versa. But like you can do all that from a spiritual perspective of just choosing to always see a person, like truly see a person, because that actually is really fucking hard to do in this world sometimes.
Oh, it so is. And just to end on this, like with my current wife, yes, we do have the paper marriage, but we spent, oh God, I think it was 8 years together before we did it. And just like you said, there was a reason why it had to be done
Mm-hmm.
because of the mental health struggles and all, in order to get her underneath the insurance benefits, for hospital
Right.
and all. It had to be done.
So now you're into a zone where it benefits you guys in order to legally do this because that's the system that we've set up. And maybe in the new world, when we all anchor that in, we'll look at these things differently. I know there's a common law marriages. I don't know exactly all of that, but that's like another idea. But even then it's still a paper thing, so it's realistically the same idea. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so it's all a game. Like if you're not like something, play with it. If you like something, make art out of it, and everything's gonna just work out however it's supposed to. All the things about like all the feelings being pulled in different directions, like you don't have to do anything you don't want to.
Hmm.
Just figure out what you want because nobody knows that. Nobody knows what they want right now.
You are so right. I thank you so much. Happy Valentine's to you, Lizzie. You are my Valentine this week, and I told you that. So check your mail because I sent you something. Either way, I also wanted to tell the entire audience, no matter what relationship you are in, what kind of relationship you are in, whether it's a paper, whether it's just open spiritually, or whatever the case may be, we wish you the best. And I hope everybody is in love. It's an amazing thing when it's done correctly. And we only had this episode because, like I said, I know some people are stuck and I get it. We feel you. I feel you. It could be very painful. Make every step possible to make yourself comfortable and happy because that's what it boils down to. And that's really what relationships should make you feel is happy. So, with that, I wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. I thank you all for tuning in. Thank Lizzie. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Emma Swales, who also came on this wonderful show. I had such a great time with Emma. I know it was such a long time that we were talking about having her on the show. Emma Swales, follow her, The Bell Witch podcast. Follow her on all podcast platforms. Find her on Facebook. Find her on Instagram. Follow her, like her. She has an award-winning podcast, and I had her on my show, and I'm so happy for that. So, everybody, thank you all so much again. Thank you again, Lizzie. You're wonderful, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.